Dr. Larry R. Hyde Jr. is a lecturer and the internship coordinator in the Communication Studies Department with an emphasis in public relations, strategic communications at California State University, San Bernardino. Prior to CSUSB, he was a senior communications manager for the Black AIDS Institute, the only national HIV/AIDS think tank focused exclusively on Black people. Hygh spent 20 plus years as the chief communications officer for the United Methodist Church in 5 different regional offices in the United States and the International Mission Agency when it was based in New York City. He has lived in Boston, Washington, D.C., Sacramento, and Jackson, Mississippi. He has also been an adjunct instructor at Folsom Lake College. He earned an EDD in organizational leadership from Pepperdine University, MA in mass communications from Stephen F. Austin State University, and a BA in radio television from the same institution. During undergrad, he interned at the White House, U.S. House of Representatives, and the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta. Hygh describes himself as a fun and adventure enthusiast who is a foodie and loves to travel. He has traveled to 6 of the 7 continents, 29 countries, and 47 of the 50 U.S. states. You can also visit him on the website, larryhygh.com. Professor, welcome.
Thank you for having me today, Matt.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm glad this worked out. I know we met each other a few years ago. We have people that we both know within academic advising. So Amanda Roberts Mather. And
we go back to elementary
yeah,
school.
I did not know that. And
Yes.
so I guess that might be my first question is, so we have that connection with Amanda. How did you meet her? So we know elementary school, and how has that friendship developed over the years?
We went to elementary school together in Marshall, Texas, at St. Joseph Catholic School, and now through the miracle of social media, we're able to keep up with each other. And I know she is out of the country, in a position out of the country, and so it's been great to just follow her journey as well. But we keep up through social media. But we both grew up in Marshall, Texas.
Yeah, and I know when you first started at Cal State San Bernardino, Amanda reached out to me through social media. Was like, you got to go and meet Larry, and then we met at one of the events, and then we've kind of connected over those years. So can you talk about your path, your journey into higher ed, into teaching, and eventually how you wound up at Cal State San Bernardino?
Well, it's a roundabout process. Academia is a second career for me. And so I spent 20 plus years as a communications public relations professional, chief communications officer in the United Methodist Church in 5 different regional offices across the country and in our international mission agency when it was based in New York City. So I spent 20 plus years doing that. And then when I was in Sacramento, I started an adjunct professor at Folsom Lake College because teaching was always something I wanted to do, and it was time for a career change. And so began to look for academic positions, and there was a full-time lecturer position at CSUSB, and so I applied. So I have the opportunity to teach students what I spent 20 plus years of a professional career doing. But so this is a good second career for me, and it's been so far so good, and it's been a good transition, I would say.
Yeah, and I follow you on social media and see really like how involved you are, like not only at Cal State San Bernardino but within the community. And I'm like, does Professor Hygh sleep at all? So it always seems like you're on the go, always doing something. And on your website, there's a quote on there that says, "My purpose is to help people find the greater good in humanity by celebrating what's right in the world." So I guess my question to you is, what connects you with this quote, and how might this connect maybe to some of the classes that you teach, or just to Cal State San Bernardino in general?
That is my personal mission statement. And the personal mission statement began from work I started doing in my doctoral program at Pepperdine. I have an EDD, of course, you read in organizational leadership. And the first semester you kind of spend in that program with your own personal leadership. And one of those aspect of that is defining your personal mission statement. So it came from that work, and there's a full personal code of ethics that fleshes out on my website what that means to me. But it it is how I move and operate in the world. It is how I choose what projects I take on in the community. It's how I choose my career path. It's how I say yay or nay to opportunities that come my way. But it's basically how I want to show up in the world. And in my business and professional communication course that I teach, we spend some time starting with that process of thinking about what it is that you are about and how you want to show up in the world in that particular course. And so they begin the work doing a personal mission statement, although this took some time for me, so it's not fleshed out, but we just kind of plant the seed. But for me, it's everything. It's how I want to show up in the world and how I choose what I will tackle. And so it doesn't fall within that, whether that be career-wise, whether that be community organizations. I can say yay or nay because it does not fall within that personal mission for me.
Yeah, no, that is definitely a great quote and great life advice, whether it's a student or myself or like you, because it's your quote. I think that it goes to all levels. And, we'll talk about some of the classes that you teach, but you were referencing the doctoral degree. And I know sometimes for students, as an undergrad, sometimes I'm just trying to get my bachelor's degree. Do you have conversations with some of your students about to have them start maybe planting that seed, thinking ahead of like if depending on what they want to do, that they might need more education, like whether it's a master's degree or going into a doctoral program?
I do. In fact, before we jumped on today, I had a meeting with a student who is planning. He's graduating this summer and wants to take a semester off in the fall and then enter into a master's program, psychology. He's a communications minor, but he was just asking for some of my advice of how to maneuver that process, what he should be doing with application processes. But I always tell my students that I think education is a great equalizer, and 80% of our population are first generation college students. And I tell them all the time, you not only change the trajectory of your life when you participate and complete higher education, but you change the trajectory of your family's life. And so I try to encourage our students, if you go into the workforce, let's see what we can do to help you get into the workforce, into a career, a field that you are excited about. And if you want to go further into higher education, let's see how we can help you go for that. My doctoral program was not planned per se. I finished undergrad in 3 years, and so I kind of rolled into my master's program at the same institution. But the doctoral program was something that one of my friends actually encouraged me to do. It was a after meeting parking lot conversation, and he was in this program. He started to tell me about it, and there's a cohort model, and it was for working folks. And so I was like, this is a great opportunity to go even further in my educational pursuits and explore leadership, something that was totally different from communications.
Yeah, it's funny to kind of reflect on that in a way where, let's say that conversation never took place, like in that parking lot, and then it's like, where would you have still gone on to the doctoral program? Would you have met with that friend later on sometime, and then it still led you on that path, or could have led you somewhere else? So I think sometimes we think, oh, we just got from point A to point B, and it was like this direct path. And sometimes it was just this random conversation or randomly meeting someone that led into a different conversation that got our interest, to something else.
And it was a cohort model too. So then even from that program, I have some folks who are lifelong friends now, who've helped students at CSUSB with various projects and have been speakers in my courses. But then I have some lifelong friends from that program too as well.
Yeah. And that's always nice with like cohorts and just having, just networking and just talking to other students and other folks. And then that just turns it into those lifelong friendships. And those are really, really nice stories to be able to reflect back on and be like, yep, they became a good friend and they still are today. And earlier you were mentioning one of the classes that you teach. Can you talk more about some of the other classes that you teach or what you're teaching this semester?
Well, I teach in our communications studies department, and I teach in strategic communications concentrations, which was formerly public relations. So this semester, I am teaching two sections of business and professional communication. I am teaching an advertising and social communication course. I am teaching also our strategic communication campaigns course, and I've taught other courses in the strategic communication track, which are public relations writing, as well as crisis communication. I'm also our department's internship coordinator. So I'm supervising about 15 interns in the field of communications in various industries right now this semester too as well. So teach 4 courses and supervise about 15 interns.
Yeah, so it seems like there's probably a good chance that some of the students within those concentrations might end up having you for multiple classes for their time at Cal State.
Yes, and so last graduation back in December was my first actual in-person graduation, and it was bittersweet, and it was moving for me, I know, as much as my students, because a lot of those students that graduated from our concentration started with me, and we were actually in person, and so and a lot of them had their last 2 courses with me, and so it was just like, oh my God, to see the growth, and they're going into various jobs, and they're going to knock it out of the park, and so it was just like, this is what it's about. When they were walking across that stage, I think I was as excited for them and their extended families that were gathered, because I know they told me their various stories too on the journey, and so it was a great full circle moment for me. But
that's what I was about to say. It's full circle, and then they've gotten to know you, you've gotten to know them, and then they know that they can contact you if they have questions or they just want to follow up and let you know, hey, this is what I've been doing after I've graduated.
Yeah, and they keep up on some of them from my keep up on LinkedIn and social media, and so it's I think it's easier to keep in touch now with folks than of course with the miracle of social media than it used to be. And so but they let me know all the time what they're doing, and I'm so excited for them.
Yeah, back in the day we had to physically write a letter and then put it in an envelope and mail it out.
Mail it out or pick up the phone and call.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Actually talk to someone on the phone versus just texting them. Is there, and so, I mean, you teach like many different classes. Do you have like a favorite topic or class that you teach?
I have favorite portions of every class. I would say probably my strategic communications course is the favorite. It is usually it's seniors for the most part. Some folks within a semester or 2, but most of the time it's folks who are graduating. But that class, they self-select into teams, and then they self-select in their teams a nonprofit to work with in the community, and they produce for that nonprofit a full public relations campaign, and they execute a portion of that campaign. So at the end of this semester, we will have worked with about 18 nonprofits in the Inland Empire, but they get that real life experience, and I like to see where the aha moments go with the challenges and then with the opportunities of working with nonprofits, because the nonprofits range in size and scope of what they do, and then also in resources, what resources are available. And so that is a very hands-on class, and so that's probably one of my favorites. But then like our business and professional communication, it is you're learning stuff like resumes, cover letters. They do a biography. They start the work of doing a personal mission statement and a personal professional development plan. So I love to see just the aha moments that go off, the lights that go off on some of the discussions we have. And then like I'm teaching advertising and social communication. I love it. So like this semester, of course, the Super Bowl is this Sunday, and so we're going to talk about Super Bowl ads and in the context of just advertising and social communication next Wednesday. And then in the fall, when I taught it, of course, it was political season the last time I taught it, so we looked at political ads. And so I'm a real world professor, and so like I try to bring what is happening in the real world, make it relevant in the classroom, and also how do you plug into whatever the dialogue that's going on in society? How do you make that fit into your everyday existence and think about it in a critical, in a different way?
Yeah, no, I like that you very much, it's not just theory based. It's like, how can we put this into practice, and then really connecting it to the real world? Because sometimes I'll meet with students and, their comment might be like, it's just hard for me to kind of grasp what I'm being taught. And in this case, like, let's say with some of your classes, you're connecting it. So for them, they can make those connections easier, and hopefully easier for them to learn and remember that material and be able to apply it. So that's really cool.
And I take feedback from them as well too. So
Mhm.
at the end of the semester, we do this whole exercise. What did you learn? Of course, what would you change about it? And so even in the advertising course, the first semester I taught it, students were like, well, we talked about ads, we saw ads, but we never produced any ads. So why don't you have us produce it? I was like, good idea. And so the next time I taught the class, now they work in the process. From the last project is actually producing an ad in the framework and using the concepts that we've talked about throughout the course.
Yeah. I'm assuming already, if anyone is listening to this, they might be like, I wish I either had taken Dr. Hygh, or can I change my major and take Dr. Hygh's classes, or maybe do a minor in communication. So you might have some more fans here. And you are also the internship coordinator in the comm studies department. And, sometimes when we hear the word internship, or the term internship, that might make some people, their anxiety jump, and it's like, oh, how do I find an internship? How do I know what internship to do? How do I balance that if I get an internship with the rest of my classes? Should I do it during summer, or do it during the regular semester? I mean, I know everyone's situation is different, but when you have those conversations with the student, if they don't know where to start, how do you help them out with that?
I always try to start with the end goal. I believe, with the Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind, and so try to figure out like what is your ultimate career goal. What do you have on your plate now? And so like I even have real conversations. Like I know I've had students who had multiple jobs or caregivers, and so like what can you fit in? What can we let go of? And what is your ultimate end career goal? And helping them try to find internships that fit within that realm. And so, I mean, we have students. I supervise interns for all of the concentrations, and so they vary as to what they do in those various internships. But basically, I meet with them 3 times throughout the semester, and they work through a workbook, and we do a lot of reflection. And so, at the beginning, usually they've started. And so we talk about, how's it going? And then one of the books that I assigned them is how to basically function on an internship. But it's a good book on how to function in a actual job, business setting. And so we talk about how it's going. What are some of the obstacles, challenges that you see possibly coming up? They reflect some throughout the process. We meet again midterm and then at the end as well. And then they're always free to my expectation, if they don't have a resume, is that we help them develop a resume throughout this process. And also always tell them, make sure you keep the work that you've done so you have work samples. But I always tell students, for me, I am who I am and a product of internships, some great internship opportunities. But I think now in this day and age, especially, you have to intern and get some experience in the field to get your foot in the door. And I'm passionate about internships. I interned an undergrad at the White House and on Capitol Hill in the summer prior to that at the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta. And so I ended up I was a television major, but I ended up doing PR, strategic communications, because of my internships. And a networking connection I had through the church suggested I get involved with this fellowship program as I was graduating. And then next thing I know, I've had a 20+ year career. And so I tell students, I've not planned this. I know that some people have life plans, and that's just not how I function. It's not how I've maneuvered the world.
Yeah. I used to kind of plan out like, what would I want to do in 10 years or 15 years? And then when I got to that market, like, it never happened. So then I started thinking, well, maybe I don't go so far out with my goals, and maybe we'll just see what opportunities come up. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how life is sometimes. It's just opportunities might happen, or you just might have that conversation or network. But I like how in your classes, like, you're making everything kind of go full circle, whether it's one of your an internship when you're working with those students throughout the semester, or if it's a class that you're doing the lecture on. And you've done a lot of different keynotes. You've been a keynote speaker various times, and you've spoken on various topics, so related to racism, racial justice, and diversity and equity. Um, with these topics, are you able to weave those into conversations in your classes or with your students?
Oh, yes. I don't know how you could not weave them in. No matter what subject matter you teach, race is woven into the fabric of our society. Justice issues are woven into the fabric of our society. So the advertising class, just to think about it. So we last week talked about sex and gender as it relates to advertising. We're going to tackle race. So these are discussions that I think naturally and logically happen, but then also we are Hispanic serving institutions. 60% of our student population is Latino, Latina, and another 20% of people of color. So I don't know for me how you could not have conversations about race, equity, inclusion, etc. And you are dealing with students of color who have to maneuver in a world that still does not necessarily view them in a dominant culture fashion and expects them to assimilate. And so how do you not have conversations about race, justice, equity, inclusion, etc.?
Yeah. And I mean, it's conversations that have happened over the years, but have seemed to be very much important, and a lot more than been going, not just at our institution, but other institutions over the last couple of years. How do you feel CSUSB has done with having those conversations with faculty, staff, and students?
I appreciate. I always see the various programs. Programmatic panel discussions, speakers that are going on, and I've tuned into some of them, and they're interesting, and they do spark dialogue, and so I think CSUSB does a good job of starting the conversation, and we still have work to do is to figure out how we maneuver in a society that is multicultural, multi-ethnic, and with the socioeconomic divides that exist and the poverty that exists. And so we've got to figure out how we do a better job of doing it. I think we are having the conversations, but we've got to start to shift to finding concrete solutions to tackle the conversations.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's going to be a continued work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
And then kind of going back to like students and teaching and faculty, do you think there's any misconceptions that students might have about faculty? And if so, how do you address those?
I don't know that. I say for myself, like in all of my classes, I do an intro day one of who I am. I tell them, I'm a second career academic. Just about the things you read on the bio, I go more into depth with those. I know some of them follow me on Instagram. We're connected on LinkedIn. And so they know that I love what I do. This is what I'm called to do, but I also have a life outside of CSUSB. So, and I get questions about stuff. So I know that they don't necessarily have some preconceived notion about me as a professor or some misconception. Because I probably share more than some of my colleagues do.
Yeah. And I think that, like you're saying, when you start your classes, like you're talking about yourself so that way the students get to know you. And I think that definitely helps, because I know some of the students that I meet with, or conversations I've had with other advisors about some of the concerns that students might have, is it's like an intimidation factor, where they kind of just maybe hold the instructor like they're either on a pedestal or something, like they, are they like me? Are they human too? So I think you kind of, let go of some of that anxiety for them, basically by for them to get to know you. And they're like, okay, I understand this professor. I kind of get their personality, and that's going to help me be a better student with knowing what I need to do for this class.
And I always tell them too that we all have life issues and things that come up. Like, professors are not immune from that. So if you got some issue going on, like you don't have to tell me what it is, but let me know. Hey, professor, I got an issue right now. I need an extension on that, or can you work with me? Like, we all have life issues that pop up. And so and even especially even since we've been remote and been at home, I realize I have this beautiful, wonderful, dedicated workspace, but I know everyone does not have that. You're in multi-family households. Folks are trying to care for children, and I even bring in speakers. When I remember the first semester we went on remote and on lockdown, I call it. One of my friends who is a journalist at a major news outlet, she is fostering 2 toddlers. She has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I was like, Joan. I know childcare is something that takes a lot of maneuver. It's like, don't get childcare. If you have to stop, I'll have some exercises. And sure enough, about halfway through, it got quiet in the house, and she's a single parent, and so she had to go check to see what was going on, and then she came back. But like that, and this is the reality that folks are dealing with. So I want the students to see, like, we are all dealing. She is a professional at the top of her game, fostering 2 little kids, and she still has to try to get everything done that needs to get done, and she's doing this lecture to you, and she has to stop because the little kids are doing little kid stuff.
Right. Yeah, I mean, these last couple of years, some days it feels like it's gone on forever. Other days it feels like it's gone by so fast. And then we were back on campus, and then currently remote, but hopefully back on campus in another couple of weeks. And I guess during this time too, what other challenges or successes have you witnessed with some of your students during these last couple of years?
I think our students are some of the most resilient folks that I tell them all the time, you need to reframe your hardship and tell your story, because y'all are some of the most resilient folks that I know. I'm like the student I met with this morning. I know he's held down 2 jobs. He has had amazing grades, not only in my class, but has a great transcript and is a caregiver for his father. And so these are the stories and the type of students. Have a lot of students who are single parents, but they are resilient and they are making it happen. They're making life work with all of the varied obligations they have, and they are still trying to pursue a higher education. I will say, I think as a society, one of the things that I've seen with our students, I think that some of the challenges they've had are exacerbated just because of the pandemic. And one of the big, I think, root issues that we deal with some of a lot of our population is poverty. And we as a society have, and I don't have the answers, have not just tackled poverty. But I think a lot of challenges that our students have stem from poverty and generational poverty. And so how do we find ways to work with our students, but then also with the family units to break these cycles? And I don't have the answers, but I think collectively as a society, we've got to really start to grapple with what that means. But our students are some of the most resilient folks that I have ever known.
Yeah, no, 100% agree, 1000% agree with those sentiments. And what do you like about working at Cal State San Bernardino? I know one of the answers is probably going to be the students, but what is it about CSUSB over these last few years now that it's like this is a great institution for me to be at?
It's definitely the students. I mean, having 80% of the student population be first-generation college students. At graduation, when they had the students who were first-generation stand, it was hard to look around and find students who were not first-generation. And like I tell them, you are changing the trajectory of your life, but the trajectory of your family's life for generations to come. The photo behind me is my great-great-grandfather who was a freed slave. And so somebody post-slavery on both sides of our family, they started to tap into higher education. And I come from a family of educators and entrepreneurs. And so my life, I know, has been blessed. And the trajectory of my life is such because the folks who came before me, who were educated and made sure that I got the best education that was possible, and that I was exposed to many different opportunities throughout my growing experience.
Yeah, awesome. And as we wind down with this interview, you've had so many positive statements, that I think can resonate with our students. But With this time left, is there anything else, any other message you'd like to say to our students if they're listening?
I always tell students there are three good things that I love. Three things that I love. Always make sure you got good ride or dies. And so the folks who are in my inner circle are folks who show up with me. They've been with me on mountaintop experiences when everything was going good, and they've been with me in the valley experiences when life was not so good and things were bad. So find folks who know the real you and love you for who you are anyway, and who encourage you, but also who push you and challenge you when you're not being the best that you can be. I always tell folks too, and these are two bits of advice that I love. One of my friends, I remember posting one day, she says, every morning I look in the mirror and I acknowledge my competition. And so I think that's a good thing. You're in competition with yourself. You have everything innately within you to succeed and to be all that you can be. And then finally, I always tell the students to do you and make the world adjust. And so live out loud, come in there bold, yelling out loud, and do you. Don't make folks just put your light out and hamper you down and put you in a box, but do you.
Love it. Absolutely love those. And last question, we'll talk about something outside of CSUSB is your hobbies. So like from your bio, you visited a lot of states already, a lot of countries. You're a foodie, a fun and adventure enthusiast, as you put it. Talk more about that.
Well, the traveling, I love the traveling. Of course, the COVID pandemic has put a damper on that. And so I'm looking forward to knocking out that last continent, Antarctica, and then those last three states, North, South Dakota, and Idaho. I had a trip planned for spring break of March 2020, my birthday week too, to Portugal. And so that trip, of course, has to be replanned. And looking forward to kind of emerging from that this summer. My parents celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary, so we're going to do something with them as an extended family and just some other opportunities. I love to travel. Of course, and then I love museums, and so I get out and about. I live in Pasadena, so around the greater LA area. Like in the past month, there's a great Tupac exhibit out there right now in downtown LA that I saw. I was at an exhibit at Pepperdine, the Kinsey African American Art Collection this past weekend, and then at the Getty Western Museum a few weeks ago. And so I love museums and learning, and we have a great opportunity in the greater LA area and in Empire to do that. I love the outdoors. Twice a week at 5:45 a.m. to 6:30. I'm at Boot Camp Pasadena trying to get some muscles. I like hiking and walking. I'm training with my best friend right now, to the friend who recruited me for that doctoral program to ride the AIDS life cycle in June, the 545-mile ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles. And so I have been doing some training rides for that. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I'm a foodie, so I love food trucks. I love hole in the walls. I love high-end restaurants. It just has to be good food. And one of the things I always tell our students, you have to care about something beyond yourself. So I'm heavily involved within our Pasadena community. So we have a little event every year called the Rose Parade and the Rose Bowl game on New Year's Day. And I just received my 15-year service award. I'm a member of the Pasadena Tournament of Roses, the entity that puts on the Rose Parade and the Rose Bowl. There are 935 white suiters, because we wear the white suit, volunteers that make that happen. I'm an active member of the world's greatest fraternity, the Omega Psi-Phi fraternity, the Zeta Tau chapter here in Pasadena, and I lead our scholarship efforts. We are Black men, and we award several $1,000 scholarships to Black graduating high school seniors from Pasadena's public high schools every year. So, and then I participate with them helping lead our Father's Day walk and just several other of our initiatives. And then my faith is a big part of who I am. And so I'm an active United Methodist, go to a campus of the Hollywood United Methodist Church called Harmony Toluca Lake. I serve on our bigger leadership team for Hollywood UMC for both campuses, and I serve on the leadership team for my actual campus too. And I preach sometimes too, not only at my church, but then in other churches all across the nation. And so those are some of the things that keep me a little busy outside of CSUSB.
Just a little busy, just a little. No, this was fantastic. I really love this interview. And I mean, it definitely did everything I was hoping to accomplish with this was, to get to know different faculty. And I think this really allows students and other staff and other faculty to be like, let's get to know Dr. Hygh and what is Dr. Hygh all about. And I think we've covered so much in this time. And what's nice about Southern California is like weather is usually always great. So you're able to take care of all these things, where it's riding, hiking, going to museums. And that's what's nice about being in the Southern California area is there's so much to do. And I like how everything for you, a lot of it connects to the campus, it connects to the community, and everything goes full circle. So
I don't see life as boxes, but everything is interconnected. It's not, you don't put this in a box and just like everything is interconnected.
Absolutely, 100%. Dr. Hyde, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.